Welcome to Learning English Every Day. I am so glad you are here today. My name is Michael Turner. I am 40 years old. I am at the middle of my life's journey. I work in a tall building in the city. My office is gray. My desk is gray. My computer screen is gray. Every day I sit in the same chair. I look at the same numbers on the screen. I drink the same black coffee from a white ceramic mug. The coffee is always a little bit too bitter. The lights in the office are too bright. They hum with a low buzzing sound. Bzzz. Most people think my job is important. I am a manager. I lead a team of 12 people. I send many emails. I sign many papers. I have a title. I have a salary. But sometimes I feel like a ghost in a suit. I feel like a machine that is programmed to say, "Yes, I will finish the report." I thought this was what success looked like. I thought this was stability. I was winning the race, but I was running on a treadmill. I was going nowhere. Every evening at exactly 6:00 p.m. I leave the gray building. I drive my car through the noisy streets. I drive away from the neon lights and the angry car horns. I drive toward the suburbs. I arrive at a small, warm house with a blue door. This is my home. When I open the door, the air changes. The air in the city smells of smoke and gasoline. But the air in my house smells of apples, cinnamon, and warm steam. My wife Laura is 40 years old too. She has been my anchor for 18 years. She is in the kitchen. She is wearing an apron with small flowers. She hears the sound of my keys. She turns around and she smiles. It is a quiet smile. It is a stable smile. It is a smile that says, "You are home. You are safe. How was your day, Michael?" she asks every single night. "It was fine, Laura," I answer every single night. We have a rhythm. We have a song. It is a simple song, and for a long time I thought it was boring. I didn't know that this boring song was the most beautiful music in the world. Then the children come home. Our daughter is 14. She is tall and quiet. She carries a backpack full of books and secrets. She loves to draw. She paints birds that look like they are about to fly off the paper. Our son is 11. He is small and loud. He loves football. He always has mud on his knees and a smile on his face. They run through the hallway. Thud, thud, thud. Their voices fill the house like bright sunlight. They talk about their teachers. They talk about their friends. We sit at the wooden dining table. The table has many scratches. Every scratch is a memory. We eat together. We watch the evening news. Sometimes we are tired. Sometimes we don't speak much. But we are a family. I looked at them across the table and I felt stable. I felt like a man standing on a rock. I never thought the rock could turn into sand. I never thought the sun could stop shining on my blue door. It started on a cold Monday in October. The wind was blowing the red leaves across the driveway. I was sitting at my gray desk looking at a spreadsheet. Suddenly, I felt a tickle in my throat. I made a small sound. Ahem. I drank some water. I thought it was nothing. But by Tuesday, the tickle turned into a fire. I had a cough. It was a dry, heavy cough. Heck. Every time I coughed, my chest felt tight. It felt like there was a heavy iron band around my ribs. It felt like I was trying to breathe through a wet cloth. At the office, my coworkers looked at me. "Michael, you look tired," they said. "Your skin is pale. You should go home," but I am a manager. I am a strong man. "I am fine," I said. I lied to them. And I lied to myself. I wanted to be the man who never fails. I wanted to be the machine that never breaks. That evening the house felt different. The smell of dinner didn't make me hungry. The sound of the children's laughter felt too loud. It felt like needles in my ears. I sat at the kitchen table. I couldn't finish my soup. The spoon felt as heavy as a hammer. Laura came over and stood behind me. She put her hand on my forehead. Her hand was cool. My skin was burning. "Michael," she whispered. Her voice was full of worry. "You have a high fever. You have been coughing for 3 days. You need to see a doctor." Tomorrow morning, I looked up at her. Her eyes were soft and kind. I saw the reflection of the kitchen light in her pupils. "Okay," I said. "I will go." That night I couldn't sleep. The house was very quiet. I could hear the clock on the wall. Tick, tock, tick, tock. It sounded like a warning. I felt a shadow in my chest. It was a cold, heavy shadow. I looked at Laura sleeping beside me. She looked so peaceful. She looked so safe. I realized then how fragile our happiness was. It was all based on me being fine. If I was not fine, the whole world would stop turning. I was afraid. The next morning, I drove to the clinic. The air smelled of disinfectant and sharp medicine. I sat in a plastic chair in the waiting room. The light was white. The walls were white. The floor was white. It was a world without color. A nurse called my name. Michael Turner. I followed her into a small room. The doctor was an old man with silver glasses. He listened to my chest with a cold metal stethoscope. "Take a deep breath, Michael," he said. I tried to breathe. I couldn't. I coughed until my eyes were wet with tears. The doctor looked serious. "You need a chest X-ray," he said. I went into a dark room. A big machine looked at my lungs. It made a loud clicking sound. Click. I waited for 10 minutes. Those 10 minutes felt like 10 years. The doctor came back with a piece of film. He pointed to a gray cloud on the picture. "You have pneumonia, Michael," he said. "It is a serious infection. Your lungs are full of fluid. You cannot go home. You must go to the hospital right away." The word hospital sounded like a bell in a dark forest. I called Laura from the parking lot. My voice was shaky. It didn't sound like me. "I have to stay in the hospital, Laura," I said. There was a long silence on the phone. "I will pack a bag for you," she said softly. "Don't worry, Michael. The children are safe. I am here." I drove to the big white building on the hill. I walked through the glass doors. I was no longer Michael Turner, the manager. I was no longer the king of the gray office. I was no longer the anchor of the warm house. I was a patient. I was a body in a blue gown. I was a number on a plastic wristband. They gave me a bed near the window. I looked out at the city. The lights were starting to turn on. The world was moving, but I was stopped. I was in the white world. I felt alone. I felt small. I felt like a child lost in a storm. I didn't know that the door was about to open. I didn't know that a beautiful face was about to change my life. And I didn't know that this was the beginning of the end. I closed my eyes. The smell of the hospital was cold. The air was silent. I waited for the morning. I waited for a miracle. But the miracle was actually a trap. Stay with me. Phase 2 is coming soon. And the shadows are getting longer. I am in a bed near the window. The bed is narrow. The sheets are white and crisp. The air in the hospital is cold. It is a sterile cold. It does not feel like the cold wind outside. It feels like the cold of a laboratory. The walls are a very pale green. Everything is silent except for the machines. Hum, beep. Hum, beep. I lie very still. I try to read a book. The book is about history. But I cannot focus. My head feels like it is full of wet cotton. My thoughts move slowly, like fish in a dark, muddy pond. I look out the window. I see the top of a tree. The leaves are gone. The branches are like black veins against the gray sky. I feel small. I feel forgotten. I am no longer the man who manages 12 people. I am just a body in room 304. I am a problem for the doctors to solve. I closed my eyes. I felt a tear in the corner of my eye. It was a tear of weakness. It was a tear of fear. I missed the smell of onions in my kitchen. I missed the sound of Leo's football hitting the fence. I thought I was alone in the white world. But then the door opened. I heard a soft sound. Swish. Swish. It was the sound of a uniform moving. I opened my eyes. A woman was standing at the foot of my bed. She was carrying a metal tray. She was young. She looked like she was in her late 20s. She was wearing a white nurse uniform. It was simple. It was neat. It was perfect. Her hair was a soft brown, tied back in a professional bun. She did not wear makeup. Her skin looked natural and gentle. "Michael Turner?" she asked. Her voice was like a soft song in a quiet room. It was not loud, but it was very clear. "Yes," I whispered. My throat was dry. She stepped closer to the bed. And that is when I saw them. Her eyes. They were as blue as a summer ocean after a storm. They were eyes that seemed to hold all the kindness in the world. She smiled at me. It was a small smile. It was the smile of a professional who cares. But in my weakness I saw more. I saw a light. I saw a hope. I saw a spark that didn't belong in a hospital. She moved to the side of my bed. She reached out her hand to check my pulse. Her fingers were cool. They were very soft. When her skin touched mine, I felt a shock. It was not a painful shock. It was a wave of energy that traveled from my wrist to my heart. My heart began to beat faster. Thump thump. Thump thump. She looked at her watch. She was counting. She was doing her job. But I was looking at her face. I noticed a smell. It was not the smell of bleach or medicine. It was a light, pleasant perfume. It smelled of clean laundry and spring rain. It was a soft smell. It was a clean smell. It reminded me of a world where people are not sick. It reminded me of a world where people are beautiful and free. My name is Emily Carter, she said. I am your nurse for the morning shift. Don't worry, Michael. You are in good hands. The medicine will help you breathe. I nodded, but I did not hear her words. I only heard the music of her voice. I only saw the blue of her eyes. In that moment, something shifted inside me. The boring life I left behind felt very far away. The warm house with the blue door felt like a dream from a different life. I was trapped in a white cage, but I had found an angel. And my heart started to change in the wrong way. That evening, Laura came to visit me. She brought me a clean shirt. She brought me some fruit. She sat on the chair next to my bed. She looked tired. There were shadows under her eyes. She had spent the day taking care of the house. She had spent the day worrying about the bills and the kids. How do you feel, Michael? She asked. She took my hand. Her hand was warm. It was the hand of a wife. It was a hand that knew how to wash dishes and pull weeds. But I didn't want the warmth of a wife. I wanted the cool, soft fingers of the nurse. I'm fine, Laura, I said. My voice was cold. I didn't mean to be cold. But I was comparing them. I looked at Laura and I saw the everyday. I saw the responsibility. I saw the routine. I looked at the door and I waited for Emily. I wanted the magic, I wanted the illusion. Laura told me about Sarah's school project. She told me about the football game Leah won. I nodded and I smiled, but I was a liar. My mind was not in my home. My mind was in the hallway, waiting for the sound of white shoes. You should go home, Laura, I said. You look tired. I need to rest. She looked hurt for a second. Then she nodded. She kissed my forehead. Her lips felt like the lips of a sister. I love you, Michael, she said. I love you too, I said. It was a script. It was a habit. The words were empty, like an old house with no one inside. I stayed in the hospital for 5 days. Those 5 days were a secret journey. Every morning at 8:00 a.m. the door would open. And every morning my soul would wake up. I began to live for the small moments. The moment she checked my temperature. The moment she gave me my pills. The moment she moved the pillow behind my head. I made small jokes. I wanted to see her laugh. When she laughed, her blue eyes would crinkle at the corners. She was always polite. She was always professional. She never crossed the line. She was a nurse taking care of a man with pneumonia. But I was a man building a fantasy. I learned small things about her. I saw the gold ring on her left hand. I learned that she had a husband. His name was Mark. Every afternoon after her shift, I would look out the window. I would see a tall man in a dark coat waiting by the hospital gate. I saw Emily run to him. I saw them embrace. I felt a sharp pain in my chest. It was not the infection. It was jealousy. It was a bitter black poison. Why him, I thought. He doesn't know how precious she is. He sees her every day. He probably thinks she is boring. I was projecting my own feelings onto a stranger. I was becoming an ungrateful man. I was becoming a dangerous man. It was my last day in the hospital. My lungs were clear. My fever was gone. The doctor told me I could go home. I should have been happy. I should have been running to the car to see my children. But I felt a deep sadness. I felt like I was being exiled from paradise. Emily came into my room to sign the papers. "You are looking much better, Michael," she said. She smiled that professional, kind smile. "Take your medicine. Don't work too hard." I looked at her. I knew this was my last chance. "Emily," I said. My voice was shaky. "You have been so kind to me. I am worried about my recovery. Can I have your phone number, just in case? Just in case I feel weak at home and need to ask a question." I was a 40-year-old manager, but I felt like a nervous boy. She hesitated. She looked at the door. She was a professional. She knew the rules. But she saw the sadness in my eyes. She mistook my obsession for fear. She wanted to be helpful. "Okay, Michael," she said softly. She took a small piece of paper. She wrote 10 numbers on it. "Only for emergencies," she said. I took the paper. My fingers brushed hers. It was a tiny touch, but it felt like fire. I put the paper in my pocket. It felt heavier than a mountain. I walked out of the hospital with my bag. Laura was waiting in the car. She was smiling. She had cleaned the car. It smelled like fresh pine. "Welcome back, Michael," she said. I sat on the passenger seat. I looked at my warm house as we drove up the driveway. The sun was shining on the blue door. But I didn't see the sun. I only felt the piece of paper in my pocket. I was home, but I was lost. I was healthy, but I was sick with a different disease. I had the key to a nightmare. And I was ready to use it. Stay with me. Phase 3 is coming soon. And the mistake is about to become a tragedy. I am home now. The sun is shining through the windows of my small house. The walls are painted a warm, soft cream color. The kitchen smells of fresh bread and roasted chicken. My wife Laura is moving around the room. She is humming a soft tune. She is happy because I am back. She is happy because the machine is working again. But I am not there. My body is sitting at the wooden table. My hands are holding a silver fork. But my mind is still in room 304. My mind is still chasing the scent of spring rain and clean laundry. I look at Laura. I see her kind eyes. I see her tired smile. But I do not feel the warmth. I feel a strange cold distance. It is like looking at a movie from a long time ago. I am a stranger in my own life. I am a ghost in a house of love. I look at the pocket of my jacket. The piece of paper is there. The 10 numbers are waiting for me. They feel like they are burning through the fabric. They feel like they're calling my name. 1 week passes. My health is better. My breath is clear. The pneumonia is gone, but a new sickness is growing. It is the sickness of the maybe. Maybe she is thinking about me, I tell myself. Maybe her marriage is not happy just like mine. I began to hate the rhythm of my safe life. The sound of the children playing in the yard feels like noise. The taste of Laura's soup feels like dust. I want the magic, I want the illusion. I want the blue eyes that looked at me with care. I forget that it was her job to care. I forget that she was a professional. I only see the angel. On a Friday evening, the air is heavy with coming rain. Laura is going to the supermarket. The children are going to a football game. "I will be back in 2 hours, Michael," Laura says. She kisses my cheek. Her skin is warm. "Rest well. You still look a little pale," I nod. I smile a fake smile. I wait for the sound of her car to fade away. Vroom. The house becomes silent. The silence is a wait. It is a permission. I walk to my jacket. I take out the piece of paper. My fingers are shaking. I pick up my phone. I press the numbers one by one. Ping. 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 My heart is a drum. Thump. 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 The phone rings once. The phone rings twice. "Hello," her voice is like a soft bell. "Emily, it's Michael. Michael Turner." There is a silence on the other end. I can hear the background noise of the hospital. "Michael, is everything okay? Are you having trouble breathing?" She sounds worried. She sounds professional. But I use her worry as a weapon. "I feel very weak, Emily," I lie. The words feel oily on my tongue. My chest is heavy again. I think I need my medicine injected. My wife is out. I don't know what to do, I hear her sigh. "You should call the clinic, Michael. The clinic is closed, Emily. I only trust you, please. Just for 5 minutes. I live at 12 Maple Street. There is another long pause. Okay, she says softly. I am finished with my shift. I will stop by for a moment. I hang up the phone. I feel a rush of energy. It is a dark energy. It is a dangerous energy. I run to the bathroom. I shave my face. I comb my hair. I look in the mirror. I don't see a father. I don't see a husband. I see a man who is about to catch a butterfly. I spray some expensive cologne on my neck. The smell is strong. It is sharp. It tries to hide the smell of the house. I go to the living room. I turn off the bright ceiling lights. I turn on the small lamp in the corner. The room becomes a place of shadows. It looks like the hospital ward at night. I sit on the sofa and I wait. Every sound makes me jump. The wind in the trees. Swoosh. The rain on the roof. Titter-tatter. Then I hear it. A car stops in front of my blue door. A door slams. Bam. Footsteps on the driveway. Click. 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 It is the sound of professional shoes. The doorbell rings. Ding dong. I take a deep breath. I open the door. Emily is standing there. She is wearing a dark raincoat over her white uniform. She is carrying a small black medical bag. She looks beautiful in the rain. She looks like a light in a dark world. Michael, she says, looking at my face. You don't look sick. You are breathing fine. Come in, Emily, I whisper. I lead her into the living room. The air in the room is thick. It smells of my cologne and her spring rain perfume. Sit down, I say. Let me get you some tea. No, Michael. I cannot stay. Let me check your pulse. She reaches for my wrist. Her fingers are cool. They are soft. When she touches me, the fire in my heart explodes. I am 40 years old, but I am acting like a madman. I don't want a pulse check. I don't want medicine. I want the dream to be real. I grab her hands. Emily, I say. My voice is thick. I haven't stopped thinking about you. Since the hospital. I feel alive when I see you. She tries to pull away. Her eyes are wide with shock. Michael, stop this. What are you doing? I don't listen. I am blind. I am deaf to her words. I step closer. I try to kiss her. Michael, no, she shouts. She pushes me with all her strength. The medical bag falls to the floor. Crash. The glass bottles inside break. The smell of medicine fills the air. It is a sharp, bitter smell. It is the smell of a nightmare waking up. And then the world stops turning. The front door opens. Creak. The sound is like a gunshot in the room. I turn my head slowly. Laura is standing in the doorway. She is holding 2 bags of groceries. A bag of apples. A loaf of bread. The keys are still in her hand. She is looking at me. She is looking at Emily, who is shaking and fixing her hair. She is looking at the broken bottles on the floor. She is looking at the guilt written on my face in red ink. Laura does not scream. She does not drop the bags. She does not cry. The silence in the room is absolute. It is a heavy, suffocating silence. It is the sound of 18 years of trust turning into ash. Laura walks over to the table. She places the groceries down slowly. One. Buy. One. She walks to Emily. She helps her pick up the black bag. I am sorry, Emily, Laura says. Her voice is like ice. It is a cold, dead voice. You should go home now. My husband is. Confused, Emily does not look at me. She runs out of the house. She runs into the rain. The blue door slams shut. Boom. Laura looks at me. Her eyes are not the eyes of my wife anymore. They are the eyes of a judge. Laura, I start to say. I can explain. She was just, don't, she says. The word is a knife. Don't lie to me again, Michael. I heard the phone call. I forgot my wallet. I was sitting in the car outside for 10 minutes. I wanted to see if you would do it. And you did. She walks past me. She walks up the stairs. I hear the sound of a closet opening. I hear the sound of a suitcase being pulled from under the bed. Scrape. I sit on the sofa in the dark. I smell the broken medicine. I smell the cologne. I hear the rain. An hour later, the children come home from the game. They are laughing. They are happy. Then they see their mother at the door with 2 suitcases. Mom, where are we going? Sarah asks. Laura doesn't look at me. We are going to Grandma's house, sweetie. But why is Dad coming? Leo asks. No, Laura says. Dad is staying here. He has his dreams to keep him company. They walk out of the house. The car starts. Vroom. I watch the red taillights disappear in the dark rain. I am alone. The house is warm. The bread is on the table. But the home is gone. I traded my lighthouse for a shadow. I traded my heart for a broken bottle. I am the manager of nothing. I am the king of an empty chair. And the long, cold winter is just beginning. The red taillights of Laura's car disappeared into the gray rain. I stood in the driveway until my clothes were soaked. I walked back into the house. I closed the blue door. But it did not feel like closing a door. It felt like closing a grave. The house was warm, but I was freezing. The lights were on, but I was in total darkness. I walked into the kitchen. The bag of apples was still on the table. The loaf of bread was still there. I picked up an apple. It was cold. It was hard. It was a memory of a life I had destroyed. I looked at the chairs around the table. 4 chairs. 1 for me. 1 for Laura. 1 for Sarah. 1 for Leo. 3 chairs were empty. They looked like wooden skeletons in the dim light. The house began to speak to me. But it did not speak in voices. It spoke in silence. It was a heavy, suffocating silence. It was the sound of no laughter. It was the sound of no footsteps in the hallway. It was the sound of my own heartbeat, loud and lonely. Thump, thump, thump. I realized that a house is just stone and wood. But a home is the people who love you. And I had sent my home away in the rain. 1 month passed. In the beginning, I told myself I was free. I am a man of success. I whispered to the empty bedroom. I don't need the chicken soup. I don't need the rhythm, but I was lying. I stopped cooking. The kitchen smelled of dust and old coffee. I lived on frozen meals and bitter water. I stopped cleaning. The floorboards were covered in a thin, gray layer of time. I stopped caring about the leaking roof. The water dripped into a bucket. Plink, plink, plink. At the office, the gray building felt like a prison. The lights were too bright. The numbers on the screen were just lines of static. My boss called me into his office. He looked at my face. He looked at my wrinkled shirt. Michael, you're not here, he said. Your body is in the chair, but your mind is gone. You are making mistakes. Big mistakes. We need a manager who is present. We need a man who is stable. I didn't argue. I didn't fight for my title. I just nodded. I packed my things in a cardboard box. I walked out of the gray building for the last time. I was no longer Michael Turner, the manager. I was just a man with a box. I was a man with a broken heart and an empty future. 6 months passed. The winter came to the city. The wind blew the dry leaves against my windows. I spent my days sitting in the dark living room. I became a curator of a museum of what-ifs. What if I hadn't coughed that Monday? What if I hadn't looked into her blue eyes? What if I had just stayed in my warm bed with Laura? I found a photo album under the sofa. I opened it with shaking fingers. There was a photo of our last summer vacation. We were at the beach. Laura was laughing, her hair messy from the salt air. Sarah was holding a seashell like it was a diamond. Leo was covered in sand, a giant smile on his face. And there I was. I was standing in the middle looking strong. I was the anchor. I was the lighthouse. I touched the plastic surface of the photo. The faces felt cold. They felt like people from a different century. I realized that I didn't miss the excitement of Emily. I didn't even remember her scent anymore. The spring rain had turned into a bitter flood. The blue eyes had become a cold ocean that drowned my world. I missed the chicken soup. I missed the smell of apples. I missed the sound of the floorboards creaking under the feet of people who loved me. I was a king who had traded his kingdom for a handful of dust. And now I was starving in the desert of my own making. In the 9th month, the cough returned. It was not a small tickle this time. It was a monster in my chest. Heck. 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 My lungs felt like they were made of dry paper. Every breath was a battle. I lay on the sofa for 3 days. I had no one to touch my forehead. I had no one to tell me to see a doctor. The house was freezing. The heater was broken and I didn't have the money to fix it. I looked at the phone on the table. I wanted to call Laura. I wanted to say I am sick. Please come home, but I was too ashamed. I was too proud to show her my ruins. I waited until I couldn't stand up. I waited until my vision was full of dancing black dots. Finally, I called an ambulance. The sirens were loud in the quiet street. Wee-oo. Wee-oo. The neighbors looked through their curtains. They saw the man from room 12 being carried out on a stretcher. I saw the blue door of my house for what I thought was the last time. It looked like a closed eye. It looked like a heart that had stopped beating. I was taken to the big white hospital. The same building. The same smell of bleach and medicine. But this time there was no excitement. This time there was only the cold truth of the end. They put me in a bed. It was room 304. The same room. The same view of the tree. But the tree had no leaves now. It was a skeletal hand reaching for a gray sky. I lay in the bed and I listened to the machines. Hum. Beep. Hum. Beep. The doctor came in. He was a young man with a serious face. He didn't look at me as a person. He looked at me as a set of failing numbers. Your pneumonia is very advanced, Mr. Turner, he said. Your heart is weak. Your body is tired. Is there anyone we should call? I looked at the ceiling. No, I whispered. My voice was a ghost of a sound. There is no one. The doctor sighed and walked out. I was alone in the white world. I waited for the door to open. I hoped to see a face. Maybe Emily, no. I didn't want to see the angel of my destruction. I wanted to see the woman with the apple-scented hair. I wanted to see the boy with the muddy knees. I wanted to say I'm sorry a million times. But the door stayed closed. The silence was absolute. It was the silence of a man who had chosen a shadow over the sun. The night became very deep. The air in the room felt thick like water. I was drowning again. But this time I didn't want to swim. I was so tired of the empty house. I was so tired of the gray routine. I was so tired of the weight of my own mistakes. I closed my eyes. I felt my body becoming light like a leaf in the wind. The pain in my chest began to fade into a cold numbness. I saw the darkness coming from the corners of the room. It was a soft darkness. It was a final darkness. I remembered the 3-second rule. But it was too late for rules. I had lost the race. I had broken the glass. Laura, I whispered into the void. I finally understand. Stability was the miracle. The boring soup was the treasure. I felt my heart slow down. Thumpy. Pause. Thumpy. I was going deeper and deeper into the black ocean. I stopped thinking. I stopped feeling. I was ready to vanish. And then, in the middle of the total silence, I heard a sound. It was not a machine. It was a soft, kind vibration in the air. Michael Turner, it was a voice I knew. A voice from a dream. Or maybe a voice from the beginning of a second chance. I was going deeper into the black ocean. The water was cold. The silence was absolute. I was waiting for the end of the story. But then a vibration reached my soul. It was not the sound of a machine. It was a soft, kind vibration in the air. Michael Turner. Can you hear me? The voice was familiar. It was the voice from the white room. It was the voice of the angel who had destroyed me. I didn't want to follow it. I wanted to stay in the darkness. But the voice was persistent. It pulled me up millimeter by millimeter. I felt the weight of my body return. I felt the pain in my chest return. And then I opened my eyes. The light was blinding. It was sharp. It was white. It was the light of the morning sun hitting a hospital window. I blinked. My eyes were wet. I saw a face looking down at me. It was Emily. She was wearing her white uniform. She was holding a thermometer. She was looking at me with professional concern. Welcome back, Michael, she said. Her voice was steady. It was calm. You fell into a very deep sleep. The medication for your pneumonia can be very strong. Sometimes it makes the brain create very vivid dreams. I looked at her. I couldn't speak. I looked at her blue eyes. They were beautiful, yes. But they were just eyes. They were not an ocean. They were not a destination. What day is it? I whispered. My voice was shaky and dry. It is Friday morning, she smiled. It is your third day in the hospital. Your fever is finally going down. My heart skipped a beat. Friday. The third day. The phone call. The kiss. The divorce. The empty house. The year of shadows. The lost job. It hadn't happened. It was a gift from my own soul. It was a warning from a future that never was. I leaned my head back on the white pillow. I closed my eyes and I breathed. For the first time in my life, the air felt sweet. The smell of the hospital didn't feel like a grave anymore. It felt like a second chance. I realized that I was still in the middle of the miracle. The glass was not broken. The window was still clear. The machine of my life was not destroyed. I was not a ghost. I was a man. I was a husband. I was a father. I felt a wave of gratitude so powerful that it hurt my chest. I started to cry. The tears were hot. They were honest. They washed away the scent of the spring rain. They washed away the illusion of the blue eyes. Emily touched my arm gently. Are you in pain, Michael? Do you need a doctor? I shook my head. No, Emily, I said, looking at her as a person for the first time. I am not in pain, I am just awake. Thank you for your care. You are an excellent nurse. I saw her smile. It was a kind, professional smile. It was a smile for every patient in the ward. And that was exactly what it should be. 2 days later, the old doctor with the silver glasses came to my bed. Your lungs are clear, Michael, he said. You can go home today. I didn't wait. I packed my bag with hands that were strong and steady. I walked out of the hospital doors. The winter air was cold, but I didn't shiver. I saw a white car waiting in the parking lot. Laura was sitting in the driver's seat. She was looking at her phone, her face calm and focused. She was wearing a simple sweater. Her hair was a little messy from the wind. To the world, she was just a woman in a car. But to me, she was the sun. She was the anchor. She was the only lighthouse I would ever need. I opened the car door. Hey, I said. She looked up. Her eyes filled with light. Hey, Michael. You look much better. I didn't say I'm fine. I didn't give her a script. I leaned over and I hugged her. I held her so tight that I could hear her heartbeat. I am so glad to see you, Laura, I whispered. I missed you so much, she laughed, a little confused but happy. Michael, you saw me yesterday. No, I said, thinking of the dark bedroom and the empty chairs. I haven't seen you for a very long time. We drove up the driveway of our small, warm house. The blue door looked beautiful in the afternoon sun. I walked inside and I smelled it. Apples. Cinnamon. Onions. The smell of a life that matters. The children ran down the stairs. Thud. 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 Sarah hugged my waist. Leo jumped on my back. Dad's back, can we play football? Later, Leo, I laughed. But this time, later was not a lie. It was a promise. That night we sat at the wooden dining table. The table with the scratches. The table with the memories. Laura placed a bowl of chicken soup in front of me. I picked up the spoon. The soup was warm. It was salty. It was perfect. It was the most delicious thing I had ever tasted. I looked at the 4 chairs. They were all full. I looked at the light in the kitchen. It was not too bright. It was just right. I looked at my wife. I saw the wrinkles around her eyes. They were lines of history. They were lines of loyalty. They were the most beautiful things I had ever seen. I took her hand under the table. Her palm was warm. Her skin was real. I love you, Laura, I said. She looked at me, her eyes soft and curious. I love you too, Michael. Are you okay? I am more than okay, I said. I am home. I learned a hard lesson in room 304. I learned that the human heart is a strange and fragile thing. Sometimes we get tired of the rhythm. Sometimes we think the sparkle of a stranger is better than the warmth of a home. We look at other lives and we forget the treasure in our own hands. We mistake stability for boredom. We mistake a storm for a dream. But a diamond is cold, my friends. A candle is what keeps you warm when the lights go out. Real love is not a feeling that comes in a second. Real love is a habit of the soul. It is the person who stays when you're coughing. It is the person who cooks the boring soup every Tuesday. It is the person who knows your secrets and still holds your hand. Do not wait until you lose your world to see that it is perfect. Do not wait until you are drowning in the black ocean to appreciate the shore. I was lucky. I was given a nightmare to save my reality. I was shown the darkness so I could finally love the light. Today, look around your own room. Look at the people you love. Do not look for the magic, look for the real. Because the real world, the boring, stable, and warm world, that is the only miracle that matters. Thank you for listening to Michael's journey on learning English every day. His story is a reminder that the most expensive things in life are often the ones we already have. Please practice these final words with me: awakening, relief, gratitude, anchor, treasure. Go home tonight and look at your family with new eyes. Tell them you love them. Don't wait for the storm. I will see you in the next story. Keep your heart warm. Keep learning. Goodbye.